Hey everybody, I'm Monty Mott, and I want to thank you for investing in the Shareholders podcast. Guys, this is probably going to be the last time you will see this type of show on this feed. We're trying to branch off and give this pop culturism thing its own feed. So this will probably be the last time you'll see this on the Shareholders. Of course, we'll give some promotion behind it. We're trying to come up with a name. We got a lot of people in the lineup. We might see rotating lineups of people and things, but it's going to be under one thing. But I have a couple people here today because this is a very important topic that we have to hit. A very important topic.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I don't know how they all even configured, but of course we have world famous editor extraordinaire trying to get her some money, but she turn the money down for some reason. But anyway, Dota's here. How are we doing? Hey. Oh.
Hello. I'm doing good.
Background. Oh, y'all ain't okay. Oh.
Okay. Listen, I had to come ready.
I had to bust mine out. It's the disrespect.
Okay. All right. And then of course there is the expert himself, the fulcrum of this. Holy Shinobi himself. What is that you have there? Who is that you have? I can't see it.
This is Miles Morales.
Young Miles Morales. Okay, all right. And the Killmonger of this show. The pro for the team. Nate the Great. We're still working on his handle as well. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Excited.
Okay, so y'all, let the debate begin. We're going to give our top 5 MCU villains now. So for the unlearned, you're not going to hear the Joker because he is not in the MCU. If you don't know nothing, that is DC. Okay, it's not the same thing. You're not going to hear, I don't think you're going to hear Green Goblin just because that's not considered MCU. That's earlier on Spider-Man. Trash Spider-Man. But anyway, we already argued that.
Been there.
So this is for the MCU. Mind you, I didn't say the most powerful villain. I just said the best villain. Villainry can have a lot of different forms for people. So we're going to get right into it. So we're going to start from our number 5 pick. So everybody should have an order. Your number 5 pick. So we will start with Shinobi himself. Sir, who is your number 5 villain in the MCU?
All right,
let me quickly say this. The villain is so important to me because we know pretty much these heroes are not new, but the villain can really make if you go back, I just said you're not going to see the Joker, but one of the great things about the Dark Knight is the Joker. The greatest part of the Dark Knight is the Joker because he's just, so that's why we're doing this. Villains are so important. Okay, Shinobi, go ahead. I'm sorry.
All right, no problem. Great intro. Okay, so I have a tied spot for 5. I have Killmonger, and I have Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch.
Okay, now how we're gonna do this? You don't have to say where, but does anybody have Killmonger on their list as well? He is on my list, but he is not 5.
He's on my list.
Not 5. You could just say he's on your list. He's on your list.
He's on my list.
Order?
Yeah, he's on my list.
He's on my list too, but all right, so we're gonna have you go ahead. So you had Killmonger and
Wanda for 5.
Okay, now why at 5?
Because all my rankings have to do with like the personal stakes that they have towards the hero of their respective villain, and then how sympathetic they are, and then 3, the real universal ramifications of their actions. And we're talking about the MCU, not just Earth, right? Not just Asgard, but the MCU, which right now is like the MC multiverse, right? So I put Wanda is really my number 5. Killmonger switched around a lot. He got a lot of social commentary, and he's kind of like the first person to bring up Black specific issues in any comic book movie up to this point. So on that level, that's why he's there. He's a better Wakanda villain than an MCU villain. Wanda held an entire town hostage and proceeded to do various acts of psychological torture for 7 days straight. And what solidified that for me is when this lady asked her in the show, can you let my daughter out of her house? She hasn't been in an episode in 5. And remember, in that universe, episodes are like real life. My daughter hasn't been in an episode in 5 days. She's been trapped in a room with no food or water. And Wanda just brushed that off. I'm like, you should go to jail.
Ooh, so you're really basing this on WandaVision Wanda, not when we first saw her in
yeah, but she was still an antagonist before.
No, she was, but you're really more convinced. That's interesting. See, I'm not going to debate you about it. It's your list. I kind of considered Wanda in WandaVision. She had villain things, but she was very torn, kind of anti-hero. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So we're gonna.
My list is all connected though. So
we gotta connect it. All right. So we'll go with Nate next. Who is your number 5?
My number 5, I had to go with Abomination on this one. Ed Norton's Hulk and Abomination. The reason I chose him is because of just how intimidating his villain was. He actually gave Hulk a run for his money. I remember watching that movie, and I actually thought Hulk was going to lose in his own movie. And just seeing a hero about to lose to the villain just goes to show just how powerful this villain was. And I was like, man, this guy is not someone to play with. So I chose Abomination because he was just, to me, very, very intimidating as a villain. And I was like, you deserve to be on the list if you're that intimidating. So
that's a good pick. Because the Hulk means so much to me, I pretty much banished those first 2 Hulk movies because I was so hurt by them. But Abomination, that's actually a good pick. I wouldn't have thought of Abomination. Good pick. Okay, Dota.
Okay, so my number 5 are 2 villains that not a lot of people would put on their list, but these people are actually evil. Okay, so I have Dreykov and Ego. So Dreykov is the guy from Black Widow, and Ego from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. He was Star-Lord's father. Okay, so the reason why I picked those 2 people is because they had no, there are some villains that have heroic tendencies. These 2 people did not at all. Dreykov managed to get little girls from their homes and turn them into Black Widows. And if they didn't meet up to the requirement, he would just kill them off. So that was purely evil to me. So he's on my number 5. And Ego as well, who went to every single planet in the universe and had a child with each species. To then, if they didn't have the same powers he did, he would kill them and to try to take over the universe. Yeah. So that's my 5.
Played by, I believe it was Kurt Russell. As Ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what, Draco? When you put it like that, that is terrible. I just watched Black Widow. I really enjoyed it, but I don't know. Terrible stuff, but I felt for the movie, he just wasn't villainy.
Bond villain. James Bond villain.
Yeah.
My pheromones require you can't hurt me because of my perfume.
Terrible taking children. Terrible, but good.
Yeah.
So my number 5, I'm going with Ultron.
Interesting.
Man.
I really love. Does anybody else have Ultron?
I do.
You have him somewhere? Okay, all right, okay.
I was actually going to put him on my number.
I know people aren't big on that movie, but I love Ultron. Man. I love, of course, voiced by James Spader. The voice, I'm not, for my villains, the powers are important, but you gotta have that je ne sais quoi, as the French say. He just had it, and he was so the way he talked to him, the way he just operated. I mean, he was always in his bag. I was so impressed with Ultron. So that's my number 5. Okay, all right. So let's go the opposite way for number 4. So we're gonna start with Dota. Who'd you have at number 4?
For my number 4, I had Red Skull. I really enjoyed him as a villain. He started off in the MCU, Captain America. And then we saw him again in Infinity War, where he was basically the guardian of the Soul Stone. The reason why I enjoy him is only because he's just a pivotal character, villain, and also because there's a possibility that he may return somewhere in the later movies, especially because I guess he was released per se from being the guardian of the Soul Stone. So I really enjoy him as a villain.
Yeah, he was riding high in Captain America, but then come Infinity, it was a tough look for your boy.
At a 9 to 5.
I considered him though. Did anybody else have him? No. Okay. All right. So Nate, you're number 4.
My number 4, I had to go with Hela, the sister of Thor and Loki.
She's on my list. She is on my list.
Nice.
Anybody
Yeah, I went with
Hela?
her. Oh, go ahead.
Anybody else got Hela? Okay, go ahead.
No.
So I went with her as my number 4. She was a little bit higher, but I bumped her down a little bit. But she was on my list for number 4 because kind of the similar reasons with Abomination, of how intimidating she was. But it's the fact that she wasn't introduced until Ragnarok, and the fact that she came in so strong, and she showed just how powerful she was. Like especially that scene where she just grabbed Thor's hammer and just broke it, and the fact that she was indirectly the cause of Ragnarok. It was just being that kind of villain, unknown, and then popping up on the scene and causing such catastrophic effects. I mean, you got to be on the list for that. So she's on my number 4.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, she's on my list. I'm going to get to Hela. Okay, X, who you got?
I had Ultron for number 4.
Okay, my man.
And I guess my reasons for number 4, I'm kind of sticking on my 3: personal motivation, sympathy, and then like the ramifications. I look back on Avengers 2 and realize that it's very much a Wanda movie because every person that's important in Wanda's life is brought up, created, and killed off in that movie. Because in that movie, because of Ultron, we get the Vision. And because of Ultron, Pietro dies. And because of Ultron, Sokovia is destroyed, which is her home. Voltron is such Ultron, sorry. He's got such a grip even now to like the Falcon and Winter Soldier show because if you remember in the movie, what ends up happening is he uses vibranium, it lifts an entire city and drops the city on top of each other. That creates the Baron Zemo problem originally because he's also from Sokovia. That creates there'd be no Civil War without Ultron because the real point of the Tony Stark wants to sign the Sokovian Accords because that black lady stalks him up the elevator talking about my son, MIT grad, and you killed him because you dropped the city on him. So Ultron is the cause of Civil War, and he's also the cause of a lot of Wanda's trauma in general. He recruited her, right? So that's why Ultron is on my list. He's got a lot of ramifications that are still ongoing right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that part. He really does have a ripple effect. So, okay, so my number 4, I had Killmonger as my number 4. I love when somebody is motivated through revenge, kind of part of their origin story. They got did wrong or whatever, or perceived to have been done wrong. And, so Killmonger, I just love when, building up the story, special forces, blah, 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 all of that. He gets his shot, takes it again, high swag factor, high auntie. I mean, we already know it's in the t-shirts. Mike B was really doing his thing in that. And I mean, okay, so let's just get to it right now because this is something that's plagued me. Real quick. Is Killmonger dead?
I think he's dead.
You think?
That's why he's on my number 5 list because he's.
You think I feel like the door, aside from the multiverse layers that we can get into, I really just feel like, even in God Rest His Soul before Chadwick passed, I was saying in the movie, I'm like, I don't think he's gone, man. I don't think. I was like, and people are like, he's gone. I'm like, but I have Game of Thrones trauma, so till I see you get killed, and you die, and we put you in the ground, and we send you off in a box on the river, and we shoot the arrow in the box, then I don't know. So, okay, that was my side note of Killmonger, but really, I just love, that was a great role and a great villain. And he just embodied, for me, like I said, I love revenge. I love when guys come back and they motivated, they got did wrong. I love that for a villain as well. So, okay, we're gonna keep it moving. All right, we're gonna start on Nate this time. Your number 3 slot.
My number 3 slot had to be Loki. I just really love
on my list as well.
Yeah,
everybody's list. Yeah,
I really love his complexity. And the fact that you just can't get rid of him. I mean, and above all that, I really like how they're doing his character development. He's probably the most well thought out character in the entire MCU. Having come from where he is to where he is now, it's just from start to finish, he's just an excellent, integral part of the MCU. I mean, honestly, we wouldn't even have the Avengers if it wasn't, for Loki kind of being that main villain. So Loki kind of drives the MCU in a sense. And so I really, really consider him a really great part of the villains of the MCU. So that's why I put him on my list.
All right. So, okay, we'll like this. Does anybody else have Loki at 3? No. Okay. So, all right. Nate already becoming the villain again, because, I mean, I would like to see. I mean, we're getting into the nitty gritty, so we all kind of know how this is about to play out. But Okay. So, X, you have it number 3.
Okay. So my next 3 are going to be some upsets, except for number 2. I have Thanos for number 3.
God help you.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
this is
I'm a double down on it too. Okay.
Double down, sir.
All right, guys. We're going with my ideology, personal motivation, right? Okay, complex sympathy of the character and the real world ramifications. Thanos put us all. He had it in a headlock from 2018, 2020. Okay, we cannot deny that. But how many things did Thanos do that got undone at the end of Endgame? He killed half the people. All the people in the universe are gone. One snap took them all back. Okay. Let's see. What else? Tony Stark died. Yes, but that was kind of his own choice. Anyone could have took there were like several super beings in the vicinity.
I don't like
I don't like this at all.
Okay, he had a very compelling like ideology, which like if you listen to it long enough, you'll be like, well, he's evil, but he's got some points. You killed Gamora, but Gamora came back again. Gamora's actually the first variant I think released in like the MCU, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, he hasn't, and like the blip, it displaced a lot of people, but like they aren't dead. So Thanos was bad, and he killed Loki, but also Loki came back. Not a lot of permanent decisions like happened. If more things got undone when Thanos came about, because I was gonna put Hela on my list too, Nate, because he took out Thor's eye, but then I say a movie, he got his eye back as soon as Thanos was introduced. So that's why he's on my number 3 list.
Okay, I can't hear much.
I can't. That was crazy.
I'm gonna bank everything you said. I'm not, because you know what, Nate? I apologize. I was already
wow.
X. Yes. Okay, so
number 3. That's
can't even. Wow. Dodo, who do you have at 3?
So my number 3 is Killmonger. I also had Ultron kind of on the side there because he did bring about Vision. But Killmonger only because, okay, when I watched Black Panther, I also was one of those that was like, no, there's no way he's gone. Especially now because there's speculation that he may come back and be the next Black Panther per se. I wouldn't be angry with that only because I like Killmonger as a character. But yeah, he's my number 3.
Shout out as well. There's been some news on that. Michaela Cole, who was I've not seen that show, but she had a very hit show on HBO. She is cast to be in Black Panther 2. They don't know the role yet, but very good actress. So there is some bubblings around that as well. Okay, so my number 3 was Hela, who, I mean, man, I'm kind of like Nate. She came in when she took that hammer and just like I was just like, I was like, whoa. Like I don't want to be caught in the moment, but I can't remember a villainous debut like that where you just come in. Right, I mean, every villain makes their mark in the movie when they first see him, but she just blew away. And plus, Lord, I know the actress.
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett is an amazing actress anyway. You know, which I think is important because you got to have the right person. We've seen iterations of villains and iterations. We already argued about Spider-Man's. The right person to play it does help because there is the canon of the comic books, but watching them on screen, you got to have the right person. I thought Kate Blanchett was outstanding. I just never get over that. I was like, this chick just came in wrecking shop. She was like DMX, you know, like stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop. So that's my number 3. Okay. I'll start since it hasn't been me yet. I'll start for the number 2. I'm going with Loki for my number 2. Again, somebody said maybe the most thought out, as well planned a villain as it could be. You know he's good because there's so many times when you find yourself rooting for him at some point. You're like, yo, stop rooting for this dude. He's terrible. But that's just the complexity of who he is. We all know people like that. You got friends you can't stand, and all of a sudden you like for a little bit, you can't stand them again. Loki is that guy. Like he's the guy at the party that you know he's a jerk, but you still invite him for some reason, and he ends up telling some good stories. But then he tells that one story that clears the room. Like, okay, bro, you know what I mean? It's just that's who he is.
Yeah.
The mischief. He's got a mischief. So such a layered, and I'm not even getting into the series Loki yet, which we can talk about because that's why he's not my number 1, because where we leave Loki is kind of
a weird spot,
facing a weird spot in terms of heroism and who he really is, and he's been on basically the psychiatrist's couch and all that. So anyway, that's my number 2. All right, so I think rotation now is X at yours. Who's you got for number 2?
I had Loki for number 2. Yeah, it was just everything you already said. So, no. I don't need to.
Well, wait. You got that? Okay, I don't know who your number 1 is. I don't
You're
know.
not. You're gonna want to leave me last for number 1.
Oh my God.
Y'all not gonna like it.
Nah, I don't know who you got for number.
Y'all not gonna like it. I'm gonna put that right now.
Nate, who you got at number 2?
My number 2 was actually Killmonger.
Okay.
The reason I put him up on number 2 is because out of all the MCU villains, to me, he actually was his motive behind what he did was probably the most justifiable. He wanted to become the king of Wakanda to overthrow oppressive government. And his story behind it made sense. I mean, he was a Wakandan by birth, but he was left behind, and his other counterparts had all this, power and resources, and they weren't lending out a hand to help out. So he had to be raised in a hood and raised in an environment where everything was bad. And he just really wanted to just make a difference in other people's lives and just kind of just overthrow that type of government and become king. Plus, he was relatable, and I think that of all the MCU villains, I mean, he really was able to kind of just relate to a lot of people in general. And like I said, his motives were, in my opinion, in a sense, justifiable. Now, his execution, that's a little, iffy, but overall, I kind of can get behind why he did what he did. And respect.
He was in the theater like,
yeah, no, literally. I was like, because in a sense, Chadwick Boseman's, but I kind of felt like in that movie, it really portrayed Black Panther as the villain. Because he was like, "Why aren't you helping? Why isn't your country Wakanda helping?" It was like, "What are you really
blurring some lines there?"
Yeah, like why aren't you doing this? And so it really brought some good points. Of course, at the end, Black Panther did make things right, but he wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Killmonger. So
yeah, and then there's. It is. I've seen Killmonger was right shirts. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff like that. That's true. So, yeah, his execution might have been a little bit off. Okay, so Doda, who do you got at number 2?
My number 2, I also had Loki. I will say that when he died, I did shed a few tears, which was surprising to me because I was not expecting that. But that is why he's at my number 2, because it made me a little emotional when he was gone. So,
well, because when he was killed, he was trying to help his brother. You know, you saw. That's what I'm saying. You see that side of him that is a little good in him, that still, you know, man. My man got him, but I remember. I'm gonna get to my whole thing, but I remember even though I called for a high ratio of destruction in those 2 movies, I was surprised. I was like, oh wow,
yeah,
Loki, man, you know, it was very much wow. That just kind of okay. So we've given our number 2s, so we're gonna get to the number 1 slot. So we'll go back in reverse again. Dodo, who you have at number 1?
Okay, so my number 1, I'm going to give a popular opinion, and then I'm going to give my personal opinion. So popular opinion would be Thanos.
Of course.
I mean,
common sense, yes.
Yeah.
Right, because the fact that he was one of those villains that, like, usually, I don't know if you guys have seen, like, The Flash and Arrow and CW. They have villains that are really drawn out, and it makes me lose interest. Mm-hmm. But with Thanos, like, although he was a little drawn out, I didn't lose interest because I was like, okay, what's going to happen next? What is he going to do next? And then thus far, he's had probably one of the biggest impacts on the MCU as a villain. So that's popular opinion. Personal opinion, though, I know you're counting out the whole Spider-Man and Green Goblin. But personal opinion, mine is Venom. Venom he's an amazing villain. The movie was absolutely amazing. I have to watch that again. But he's one of my.
You said the movie is amazing. You like
Topher Grace Venom or what's his name? Tom Hardy.
Tom
Venom.
Hardy.
Tom Hardy.
Okay.
You liked
Tom
it?
Hardy. Yes, I enjoyed that movie.
I mean, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't. It probably wasn't in my top.
It's not popular opinion, right? So, and especially because this is deeply rooted from Spider-Man 3 with the wonderful Tobey Maguire, which is my favorite Spider-Man. Anyway,
why was she on here last time?
Listen, I couldn't make it, but if I was here, I would have stepped up.
Thank you, Dakota.
Right?
This is
look at his spirit.
This is not the time.
Listen. You know what's ingrained in my mind? Spider-Man 3 with the silver pipes, and he's like clinging all the pipes, and Venom is coming off of Eddie, and it's just like an amazing scene. But just wanted to put that out there.
You know what's ingrained in my mind? A dance sequence. Okay, a whole thank you dance.
All of his good attributes outweigh all of the bad happening.
Anyway, we're moving on. Okay, all right, Nate, who is your number 1?
Of course, my number 1 had to be Thanos, and I know, like Dakota said, that was a popular opinion, but I mean, it is inarguable that he lived up to the hype ever since his first introduction. That small clip at the end credits, ever since then, he was an anticipated villain, and he lived up to the hype both in Infinity War and in Endgame. And counter to what Exodus said about him just, his consequences being reversed, it was not just reversed. If you really look into it, he left permanent changes that are just irreversible. I mean, for instance, Scott Lang's daughter, like, grown now. He didn't even get to watch his own child. That just goes for all other kids or parents or whatever. And the blip that happened, I mean, just imagine that economical catastrophes that happened. I mean, Thanos lived up to the hype, and even in his dying days, when he did die, he still left a permanent mark on the MCU and in the entire world to come. So he definitely had to be number 1, and he's the only villain that actually fulfilled his task, like, to the T. Like, he completed what he was going to do at the end of Infinity War. He did, and he just sat back and was just chilling until they, found out how to time travel. But
let me tell you something, Nate. A lot of people be talking about you, but you're all right today, man. I don't know why y'all be giving Nate, man. We ain't got Earl ain't on this one, so see, I don't know what Earl be talking about. But see, that's well put. Okay, all right. We're gonna save Shinobi for the end, since Lord knows I don't know.
God knows what he got.
Let me tell you,
I'm here to ruin your evening. That's what I'm here to do.
Just hit it. Don't tell me, everything that Thanos did, it got reversed. Joker, I lost 5 years of my life.
Literally.
Children are older now. Like, we coming back. I ain't seen the M. Night Shyamalan movie, but fam, we got old, dog. Like you said, we had to totally rebuild economies. All right.
Yep.
Thanos was the LeBron James. He had all the hype. Like you said, we saw him coming. We knew. So, and he lived up to it. Again, let me quickly tell my story. Before Avengers Infinity War, me and many friends put the over on the death kill. I said, I didn't talk about both movies. I said, just in Infinity War. We started the line. I said, he got to get at least 3 bodies. And I said, you know what? Take it up to 4. It went up to 8 bodies. And I said, I will take the over.
Yes.
And so that's why even when Loki got it at first, I was like, yeah, I called for it. I was like, it's a little fast, but let's call for it. Yeah. And he went not 8, not 9, like LeBron said, about what? I mean, 3 billion? Okay. And my other point is this. They had to cheat to defeat. Oh, we're going to go back in time now. You had to do the unprecedented to stop him. And what my favorite part of Thanos is, when they went back in time, he was with Gamora. He was with, Lord, I'm old. I'm sorry. Both the daughters. And he realized, he said, they're here because of something I'm going to do. He hadn't even really had it in him yet to know, but he knew that they could have been coming back for anything. They could have been coming back for any reason once they came back, in time. And when he realized, he was like, nah, this shit.
I think actually, what you're mentioning when he got killed and he saw himself in that video and her flashback, I think the specific line he said was destiny fulfilled or something like that when he realized he did it. He said he did it.
Listen, and the thing about it, like Dota said, it was kind of an origin story. And a lot of times origin story movies are kind of a little too long and but they're trying to establish. We got his whole origin story. I was just like Gamora when they came with Red Skull. Gamora laughed because he said, you have to sacrifice something you love. And I was like, Gamora, I'm like, well, he don't love nothing, so, you're out of luck. But then...
It's just a long shot. He's just staring like, no.
He's looking at her, serious. And I said, oh, my God. And he's got the tear, and he does it. And then the little Gamora, oh, my God, my heart.
Yeah, that man.
What did it call?
That was a haunting image. That was a haunting image for sure.
I mean, so I don't know what else to say. My man's wiped out half the world. People are in post-traumatic stress after this thing. They talking to Cap about, what happened with me. So I don't know about this whole everything got flipped back because they ain't all get flipped back. You know what I'm saying? Missed 5 doggone birthdays. So, all right, that's my spiel. Thanos, my guy, he proved me right. I told folks he was coming for their head. They didn't believe me. So now we're going to get to the last part of this. I don't know what is about to happen. I can't sanction this. This is not part of Mighty Sharp Network. I don't know what's about to happen. You got the floor, sir.
All right. Now, I'm sticking with my guns. I told y'all, personal investment, sympathy and ramifications. Okay. This is a controversial. Listen, it's a controversial choice if you look at it on a surface level. I talked to some folks, the rumble on the internet. Okay, this ain't nothing new, but and everyone just take a step back here. Tony Stark is the biggest villain of the MCU.
What is it?
Tony Stark is the biggest villain of the MCU.
Time to end this.
No. Let me talk. Everyone, inhale and exhale. Okay. Tony, are you ready? Miss?
I'm listening.
All right. Tony Stark has created more villains than he has taken out. And not even his own villains that he had to fight. Without Tony Stark, there'd be no Ultron. Without Tony Stark, there'd be no Wanda. There'd be no Pietro. There'd be no Justin Hammer. There'd be no Whiplash. There'd be no Vulture. He's created more villains, other people's villains, and other people's problems. And the ramifications. Without Tony Stark, there would be no Wanda movie because it all starts with the bomb that blew up Wanda's family. That what he made, it had his name on it, right? Which is that's Wanda's whole origin story. It starts with Tony Stark and ends with Tony Stark, and he's the greatest villain, I say, because he starts out as a bad guy. He's a munitions salesman. He sells things to people to start wars and make a profit. He matures one level every single movie until he is the actual hero that deserves the hero's death that he gets at the end of Avengers Endgame. And that's why I'm not mad that I'm sad that he had to go, but it's the most poetic thing. And it ends with like, he's got the little arc reactor that said proof of Tony Stark had a heart. That was in the first movie. It was a great callback, but every movie that Tony Stark is in, it is his fault. Civil War, okay? A lot of events may not had a lot to do with it, but Sokovia was his fault because he made Ultron, and Ultron dropped an entire city on Sokovia. He was persuaded to do Sokovian Accords that caused a split in the Avengers. He recruited a 16-year-old boy who was just really strong. Are
you winding this up? Because I'm about to.
No, for real.
No. Here's and then no. Listen, he drafts a kid. He drafts a child soldier into a war that he didn't even ask for, and then dies, leaving him codependent on. He can't even. Spider-Man can't even become his own superhero, and he still has it.
Didn't draft him.
Yes, he did too. He knew his uncle. Tony Stark knew that his uncle died, and he used emotional manipulation to win a war. Figured he was the only person. No. And he gets what he wants, and he gets what he wants.
That's not a villain. If you get what you want, you're just smarter than everybody else. That's just the game. Like,
he's a good villain because Listen.
Here's my thing. What did Thanos say? What did the greatest villain of all time say? He said, "I am inevitable." A lot of those things you talking about Tony Stark did, it was inevitable that things were going to happen. Like, if we stopped Tony Stark, it was still going to be wars. It was still going to be things created. Like, you're putting
the MCU's greatest villains are a direct result of Tony Stark's
hold on. No, that's not true because Mysterio, Vulture, and
Mysterio is an ex-Stark employee.
No. All of these people had a choice. They were not a direct result.
Yes, they were because Tony Stark, he either stole tech or displaced people's jobs. Vulture only went evil because he was not paying the people, what they call the wrecking crew, I think. Mm-hmm. They're responsible for picking up the debris from every Avengers fight. Tony Stark has people on their payroll that picks up stuff and gets
that you're trying to direct.
He did not pay Vulture, which caused Vulture to be evil.
Not a direct.
Whoa. Time out. Here's what you just said. He did not pay Vulture, which caused Vulture to be evil. Bro, just because you don't get a check don't mean you got to turn it into a super villain.
He did not pay them. Same thing with Mysterio. He created what I'm saying is Tony Stark is the villain of villains because he created more villains and he didn't even. How many villains did Tony Stark actually stop besides Thanos? Who did he stop? Who did he stop? Obadiah Stane. Okay, that's his fault. That's his fault. Everything. He makes up for it at the end of Endgame, but that's it. He caused a lot of more problems with everybody else. Okay, Pietro died, which caused Wanda to go crazy. He made the blueprint for Vision great, but he made Ultron. Okay, he causes more problems than he solves, and we just let him get away with it because he's awesome, and that's what makes him a great villain.
Guy loses his job at Walmart. Comes back, shoots up the Walmart. You like Walmart's the villain, y'all? Like, I mean, what?
It's because he didn't quit Walmart because he didn't get a check. Okay, they literally came in and said, "Yeah, your job doesn't exist anymore because we've got robots to replace you, and we're not gonna compensate you for it." The whole point of Spider-Man: Far From Home is that it's all a bunch of ex-Apple employees who were under terrible work conditions that caused a revolt. And since the dude who started the company is dead, we're just gonna take out his little protege who is codependent on Tony Stark, who is dead. All I'm saying is Tony Stark, and I love Tony Stark. He's the OG, he's the GOAT, but he causes more problems in the first big chunk of the MCU are all Tony Stark problems that other people have to be forced to ask him politely to fix. And he's like, oh, I guess. Like, people forget about Iron Man 3. All his armors, because he made their use board. So
how many people did Loki kill? Does anybody know? How many people did Loki actually kill? Like, Loki killed a bunch of people, man. Like,
he his death count is his death count is low. I don't know. I'm not gonna say his death count is lower than Tony Stark's, but Tony Stark's death count is comparable. From when he started as a munitions salesman. Okay. Sokovia.
You can't count the bullets.
Ultron. He's responsible for Ultron. Is he not responsible for Ultron? Are you gonna say he's not responsible for Ultron?
I don't know what Reddit threads you've been deep on, but God help all of y'all, because I'm not with that.
Tony Stark causes he makes villains. He's a villain maker.
I mean,
wow. Is he not? Are you gonna tell me that he hasn't started more problems?
I mean, what you're telling me is that if an Amazon worker was upset because they weren't getting paid enough and they went out and did some crime, they blame it on Jeff Bezos as if he's the villain.
Yeah, you're stretching that.
You can't.
Stretch.
I mean,
see, because y'all are only talking about the villains from far from home. Y'all not bringing up Ultron. Y'all not bringing up Justin Hammer. Y'all not bringing up
Ultron. You're
not bringing up Sokovia. Listen,
the Civil War started because yes, he has to own Ultron. Like that was a direct.
Yes,
that's what I'm saying. Like that's. But you're trying to make the same direct things with all these peripheral things. Like, no. Ultron, he got to own that. That's on his head. Him and Cap, we had a whole Civil War over that.
He's got to own Sokovia, too, to an extent.
Again, that does not put him above. Thanos wiped out half the universe. Like, there ain't no coming back from that, bro.
And then not to mention.
But the universe came back. But
why did it come back? It was because of Iron Man.
Yes, exactly. Look, and that's listen, my logic for everything tracks. That's why I have Loki at number 2. Loki's a bad dude. Loki killed people, but Loki had a very dramatic turn, and we're rooting for him. Okay, and you go look at an interview about with Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark is a bad guy. He starts as a bad guy, and slowly over time becomes more and more human, becomes less machine and more man. That's his whole arc. But in the midst of that, he does a lot of questionable to very bad things that he has to fix. But the thing is, every time he fixes a solution, a new villain pops up, a new problem pops up. We would have no Falcon and Winter Soldier if it wasn't for the fact that Sokovia was so displaced. Yes, Thanos did displace a lot of people, and that was part of the problem. But there were so many problems with Sokovia that were brought up out of the surface because they dropped the city on top of it, which was the result of Ultron, which was the result of Tony Stark.
Let me ask a question. Okay, I kind of see where you're trying to come from, but can you really call someone a villain after the sacrificial play that they make like that?
That's called a tragic hero, Nate, because he's a tragic hero.
Yeah, but you also have to look at the intention, though. Because I don't think that his intention was for hundreds of millions of people to die like that.
Yeah,
whereas
his intention was to make money. His intention was to make money, and that's what he was doing for a long time until his own bomb blew him up.
No. Why did he even take on the Iron Man mantle to begin with? It wasn't to make money.
Because a bomb that he made blew up in his face. Now there's shrapnel in his chest, and now he's put in a life or death situation, and now he's having a turn of heart. But he would have never became Iron Man if his own creation didn't blow up in his face. Okay.
But he also saw some of the effects of what he was doing
after the consequences of his own actions.
He didn't have to be Iron. He could have just saved himself and kept living his life. That didn't mean he had to be Iron Man. He made a choice.
No. Listen, Tony Stark didn't make Iron Man. Yusuf made Iron Man.
I'm just saying, but he didn't have to start fighting crime and mess. He could have just.
He didn't do it. He wasn't going to if it wasn't for Yusuf.
After he got out that cave, he didn't have to.
Okay, listen, this is gonna have to be a separate show. We got to do a separate show because X has already done. We talk about the multiverse. He didn't went to a whole multiverse of craziness that I can't even. Again,
Tony Stark.
Little Scotty Jenkins was about to become a star player on the basketball team as a freshman. Thanos snaps his fingers, and little Scotty Jenkins comes back as a college sophomore. He lost his whole basketball career because of Thanos. Don't tell me I'm not even gonna. Anyway.
Wow.
So, guys, you see, this is why we got to do a different show now because we're about to get deep into things. We can't just. I still got professional people I'm trying to interview for Shareholders podcast. We're still trying to, and we getting crazy with some things. So, look for. It'll be name to be determined. Host and things to be determined. We'll come back with that. But as we end, so very quickly, let's hurry up. We're going to do this very fast. Everybody go through and give your order of your 5 that you had. Okay, so Dodo, give your 5 very quickly from 5 to 1. Who did you have again?
Okay, so my 5, I had Drykov and Ego. For 4, I had Red Skull. For 3, I had Killmonger / Ultron. For 2, I had Loki, and then for 1, Thanos / Venom.
Okay, Nate, who'd you have?
For my number 5, I had Abomination. For my number 4, I had Gila. For number 3, I had Loki. For number 2, I had Killmonger, and for number 1, I had Thanos.
X, your terrible list.
I had I had tied spot for Killmonger and Wanda for 5. Ultron's number 4. Thanos is number 3. Loki's number 2, and Anthony Stark as numero uno.
You started so good because I love the Wanda one. That was such a great one.
My first one and my last one link up. There'd be no Wanda if there was no Tony Stark.
Anyway, and I had Ultron at 5, Killmonger 4, Gila at 3, Loki at 2, and the King of Kings, the baddest of the bad, Thanos at number 1. So guys, check us out. Look for, if you enjoyed this craziness, look for the spinoff that is coming. Stay with, again, Shareholders Podcast. We'll be coming back, have some more interviews, some more people I love to interview, talk to about business and things. I got a big one coming up, man. We got a stock show coming back. We're bringing back Jonesy to give us more stock tips. That AMC stuff is still going on, man. So check us out for that as well. Mighty Sharp Network. You guys know what to do. Stay sharp. Stay off Reddit and be